Let's talk even more about Apple's spring-loaded event. The logo basically confirms iMac, and not even because of the colours. Let's talk about that. I'm iCaveDave and I simplify Apple so that everything just works for you. But what on earth in this logo confirms iMacs on Tuesday? Oh, and by the way, today's show is shot and edited on iPhone. Just saying. Now, to be clear, this is not something that I realised, but something that was mentioned by John Prosser and Sam Cole's podcast yesterday, The Genius Bar. I mentioned before that I thought we would see the Hello Macintosh thing pop up on the new screen as the new iMacs were introduced. Oh, and by the way, you can grab my pop art Macintosh merch, including that Hello logo, and also my new dark mode always stuff at iCaveDave.com/merch. You can get it on a mug, a bag, or a t-shirt too, and all of that helps out the channel. But is that very Hello logo, or Hellogo, as I'm calling it from now on, hidden right there in the icon for the event? Maybe it is. Pretty clearly we have the L and the E from the Hellogo right there in the Apple logo, so could we see the animation of the Apple logo continue in the event, turning right into the Macintosh Hellogo in rainbow colours for the first time ever, to introduce the new iMac in its splash of new colours? I think so. I'd also point out that before this channel was even called iCaveDave, back in the Living on iPad days, on August 31st last year, I suggested that one way that the new Apple Silicon Macs could differentiate themselves from the old Intel ones, or in fact I think the title of the video was Destroy Intel, I'm basically a prophet, would be to have coloured MacBooks. 6.5, and our bonus feature. Now this is completely unconfirmed and probably not something that Apple will do, but I would love to see the colours that are being used in the iPhone 11 and presumably the iPhone 12 lines, those bright vivid colours come into the MacBook when it becomes an Apple Silicon Mac. I would really love to see some personality come back to the Macs. Remember the old rainbow logo? Let's take those colours, anodise the aluminium so that we've got really vibrant colours finally. Mac users tend to be creatives, they tend to be YouTubers and graphics professionals and marketing people, as well as everyone else. Macs are for everyone now, but they've traditionally always had that kind of heritage of being for creatives. Because I was talking about the first one that we expected, which at the time was probably going to be a 12-inch MacBook, because even back then the rumours were saying there would be no fan in it, and in fact that turned out to be the MacBook Air that just dumped its fan that it already had. I think I had about 60 subs on that video. Link is right up here if you want to see it, but I actually made MacBooks turn into the old Apple logo colours. Pretty prophetic, I think you'll find. But Leaker Love to Dream, who's 89% accurate on Apple Track, tweeted yesterday, enjoy the colours, and Twitter lost its collective mind, as it looks a lot like they were confirming the colours for the iMac. We'll see if this turns out to be true, but all the pieces seem to be lining up and pointing that way now. Also, I've got a new theory on low-end iMacs, and obviously this is kind of evolving through the week, but here is what I think might be happening. There's been a lot of talk about whether the two iMac codes that we have refer to two different sizes or two models of the smaller iMac. Max Tech, I'm looking at you. My money is firmly on two sizes, as we've basically had registrations for pretty much the whole range of Macs that we're expecting in the next year in the Euro database. That was before the Macs came out last year, and there's two there that are 1 digit apart, and they are just like the existing iMacs that we have already. The only reason that they have two identifiers for the smaller iMacs right now is because the 1080p model is unchanged since 2017. Different processors on the board do not warrant different identifiers. It is for generations, not chips. But my prediction of the $1099 starting price yesterday might have been premature, and here's what I think is a much more likely roadmap. M1X comes out next week, starts at $1299 for the smaller ones, $1799 for the larger ones. High-res screens, the works. Maybe an M1 that is purely for education, but it's unannounced, very much like the $799 education-only version of the MacBook Air that comes with less storage. So probably M1, but with 128 gigs of onboard storage, because everything will run off servers for education markets. Then in October or November, the M2 iMac comes out, and that gets the $1099 price. It could have most of the performance of an M1X, because the M2 might well be using that ARM9 architecture that we've been talking about. Video up here that explains what that is. And it works really well for Apple in terms of marketing in order to push that price back down and give a really compelling option for people that just need a base level iMac. The other reason is I think that launching any more M1 Macs right now is probably too late in the game. I mean, I could be wrong, but I think that it's a decent idea for how they would proceed forwards. Also, one more thought on the event name, spring-loaded. Now, this could be purely because the event is in the spring and it's loaded with devices, but it could be more about a Pro Display XDR style adjustable mount for the iMacs. Since iMac G5, iMacs have never had adjustability in the display, and it's one of the biggest complaints that people have. The G4 had that lovely swivel arm that you could do so much with, and it just made so much sense. The XDR has a very expensive stand that uses springs in it to kind of tension everything, but could Apple be finally bringing us an adjustable display iMac? It uses springs, the springs are a part of the mechanism. I know it's a stretch, but who knows, let's see. We've only got a week to wait. Let me know down in the comments your thoughts on the cheaper iMacs with M2, and also your thoughts on the spring-loaded thing. But we are going to get into some iCave answers in just a moment. We've got a bunch of cool questions, and we have a huge number of new Notification Squad members today. So do I need to make a Notification Squad shirt? Let me know in the comments. So in our Notification Squad Pro Max today we have new members: The Golden S, Rabid Cyber, Neil Patel, Jack Wacker, Silas P, Lick My As, I Love iPad, hashtag Notification Squad is apparently a new member. iCaveDave is my favourite YouTuber is a new member. Eugene King, Jake Hero, Carl Mobius, Deleted User, brilliant name, Juan Dwag, Carl Joseph, David Eden Sangwell fan account, who knows why you would call your account that, Jankin, and Dan Gavin RC. Thank you all so much for joining, and again, let me know down in the comments if you think we need a Notification Squad shirt. I will design something super cool. Then into iCave Answers.
Marcin Kowalczyk asks, iCave Answers. Do you think that with how efficient M-series chips are, will Apple ever allow an option to lock the system fan to hard off, possibly via API for third-party apps?
Okay, interesting question. Obviously, we know that the M1 can run without a fan. It works absolutely fine in the MacBook Air. So all Apple would need to do really is kind of put that performance curve onto whatever you wanted to turn your fans off on. Now, I don't see why they would, because it's silent regardless. It doesn't make any noise, but I guess there could be a super power saving mode for the MacBook Pros maybe that just never runs that fan, because I don't know, maybe the fan uses a decent amount of energy. No idea why you would want to, but I guess they could. Will they? No, probably not. But I wouldn't rule out a third party coming out with an app of some sort that would manage your fans for you, which has happened, I know, with a lot of the Intel Macs, but it just depends how locked down all of that stuff is by Apple in the Apple Silicon version of Big Sur. I would guess it's pretty well locked down. Of course, unplugging a fan would also probably work just as well and be a lot less work.
Hey Siri, Call Mom asks iCave Answers. What do you think they can improve on Siri?
Good question. Siri is, as we've said before, disabled a little bit by the fact that Apple is very hot on privacy. They don't want all of your data going off to the cloud, and the reason that Google and Amazon's assistants can answer more stuff for you and be kind of a lot more integrated into different services is because they're a lot less concerned with what happens to your data when it leaves your computer. So I think that Siri is probably going to remain a little bit less useful in those ways, but also more tightly integrated with Apple's own apps. So I think Siri might become more of a kind of reason to use Apple's apps going forward rather than kind of spreading out to more apps, perhaps. That being said, they just need to make it listen better. It's pretty good, actually, in general, I've always found, on speech recognition, but making it all possible to happen on your phone or on your iPad would be really cool, so that you could use it without an internet connection. I think that would be probably one of the biggest things.
William Phillip asks iCave Answers. No Face ID on the iMac desktop computer? Cheers!
So, yeah, it looks like the iMac's Face ID has been pushed back a year, according to some rumours. Now, there's always a chance that they could include it regardless. They could have it all worked out, and the supply chain just doesn't know about it. Because they could be using exactly the same sensors they use on the iPhone or on the iPad, and so Apple could have just been buying more bulk on those, throwing them into an iMac, and nobody kind of knows in the supply chain, because the supply chain for Macs seems to be way more locked down than it is for iPhones and iPads and stuff, and a big chunk of that is the fact that they make less of them, there's less of them to leak out there. You know, before a launch of an iMac like this, they're probably making, I don't know, less than 500,000. I would say probably quite a lot less than 500,000 units, maybe like 200, 300,000 units before the launch. So there's just not as many out there, whereas you've got probably 100 million iPhones basically made before the iPhone launches. That would be my best guess, but I think it would be great to see it at the launch. I have a feeling it's something they might hold back for another generation, not because they want to hold back these to get people to upgrade, because that makes no sense. They just want people to buy them as soon as possible. And Apple doesn't just hold back features in order to launch them later because they want a reason for people to buy the next one. They don't want everyone to upgrade every generation. That's why they make Macs that last.
Ceterius Maximus asks iCaveAnswers. Something I have been wondering about for a long time are smartphone, tablet, and computer batteries. And this brings me to the question, can there be a sustainable alternative to degradable lithium-ion batteries? If so, how long will its technology need to be implemented in these smart gadgets?
Battery technology is one of the hardest things going, to be completely honest, and it's all gradual, step by step by step. The answer is not hydrogen power cells or anything like that. It is batteries will get better and better, and hopefully we will get the chemical technology better so that they last for more cycles. Apple's already implementing a lot of stuff that smartly charges them so that the batteries don't degrade as much over time. You will see occasionally people that manage to get them down to like 95% in a few months, but that will be people that charge in really weird ways or decide that because the phone is capable of it that they must use the fastest charger available, and that overheats the batteries, and that doesn't help with their battery life. What Apple is doing a lot more smart charging, so it's kind of keeping things at a lower battery level. Things like your Mac will look at your calendar internally and make sure that it's charged up before you have an appointment somewhere across town, like 2 hours before, so that it makes sure that it's fully charged. And I think these are the kind of clever things that Apple does, rather than trying to optimize the hardware as much, because there's a lot of companies out there that are doing battery technology, people like Tesla that are doing huge leaps in it. But Apple is more about optimizing the hardware they've already got, because that affects a lot more items. So like this smart charging technology will affect everything that runs the current version of macOS, and it can manage all of those batteries, rather than just trying to make something that's a better battery to get people to buy a new one. You know what I mean? So I think there's not going to be anything in the very near future. It's all going to be incremental upgrades. There's not going to be some fabulous new technology that replaces batteries anytime soon. Probably not within the next decade at least. So thank you for all your questions. If you've got a question for me, hashtag iCaveAnswers down in the comments. We will answer them. And I will see you in the next show. Thanks so much for watching.